Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Ishmael and welcome to my YouTube channel. So in this particular video, we'll be comparing different state management solutions. That will be setState, which is already inside Flutter. We'll talk about provider, GetX and Bloc Riverpod. So we'll compare all of these state management by making one application with the help of different state management solutions. We'll talk about which state management you can use as well in your particular projects and which state management I prefer when I use for freelance in my personal project or if you are working in a job or with a team. So if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and with that being said, let's start this video and begin with the project. Alright then, so let's make our new Android Studio Flutter project. I'll open up the Android Studio and make a new project. Alright, so there we go. I have made a project called State Management Compared, and it has all of the basic code inside the main.dart as you can see. And this boilerplate code also will remove just in a sec. So first let's remove that boilerplate code. We don't need that. And remove this my home page class as well. So the application that I am thinking about is a Instagram clone, and the home page we have for the Instagram, we can make that and we can add different state managements within that particular home screen and inside that. So let me open up the browser, and here I have made an Instagram project last year, and yeah, last year I made this Instagram clone. And here I made a video about it as well. You can check it out on YouTube. And there I have made the home page of the Instagram application. So we'll be using that Instagram home page as our base UI for different state managements. So what I'll do is I'll install the assets and lib folders and then copy paste those inside our project. So you can see that the assets and lib folder is installed. I'll simply drag that inside. So let me just delete the lib first, and then I'll drag and drop inside our state management compared and hit refactor. Perfect. So once I have added that, we have our assets and our lib is not there. So let me just drag that as well and hit refactor. And okay. So this is done. Next step is I have used some packages here as well. So let me just copy those. Here there are no packages, but we have some assets. So let me just copy that and add those assets as well. Let's go back to pubspec.yaml, and below this user material design, I'll simply paste that. Next, first let's hit pubget. This will add the dependencies. Once that is done, let's go back to lib folder and we can see some errors. The errors are regarding the project name. Here the project name was Instagram clone and now it is state management compared. So what I'm going to do is simply going to change this everywhere to state management compared. Management compared. Let's replace all and replace. There we go. So all the errors are now gone and I must be able to see our main Instagram page. Here let me just change the app name or the title basically as Instagram State Management tab. Perfect. And if I go to the home page, there we go, we'll be having our home page design. Let's first run the app to check our UI is working or not. So I'll open up the iOS simulator. Alright, so our main goal is not on the front end part, how it is looking right now. Our main goal is to add API and add state management here. So the API that I will be using, I'll show you that as well. And the API will be having pagination. So we'll implement that as well in different state management libraries to compare them more like better in a better way. So let me show you the API now. Let's go back to the browser and open up the sample data API that we'll be using. So basically the API has image, has some additional metadata information, first name, last name, phone number, everything we have. So we'll be using this particular API, and here we have offset and limit so that we can use for our pagination purposes. So we'll be getting that data in pagination. As we are scrolling, we'll get the data. Makes sense, right? So this is generated based on this post variable that I have made, and this post is populating in the init state. So first things first, let me enable VCS in the project. So enable version control integration. I'll click OK. GitHub is now available. I can go to commit. Okay, so what I will do next is I'll commit the changes, or UI done. I'll just do that and hit commit and push. So that will commit the changes. I'll say commit anyway, and I'll cancel the push for now. Next, let's go in the branch and let's rename the branch. So the branch will be UI. So this branch will only have the code for our UI, and there is no API integration, nothing is there yet. So our branch is changed, and let me now push it. So git push and UI branch define remote, and in the meanwhile let's just add our remote. So I'll go to arc github new, and whatever project name we have, state management compared, and let's just go public and create the repository. There we go. Let me just copy the address, paste it, click OK. Commits are there, and let's push it. So our source code is pushed. Let me refresh, and our branch is made as well for the UI. Great. Next, what we will be doing is I'll go here to the branch, create a new branch from UI, and that will be our setState. So let's talk about setState. setState is the state management that is defaultly available to us within Flutter. We don't have to do anything in that. So first, let's add our API. So right now the folder structure is looking like constants, model, views, widgets. Pretty basic folder structure that you can see in any basic Flutter project. And constants, we have something like assets, basic strings I am storing. Inside models, I have made a model entity for the post. Inside views, we have all of the UI components, widgets, anything. And the common widgets are available inside our widgets folder. Widgets folder, which has a gradient arc painter, so that I use for this. So let me just change this widgets.dart to gradient arc painter. Gradient arc painter. Right. So here we'll add our common widgets, and it's fine. So okay, this will work. Next, let's add a folder for API. You can name it anything like backend API, anything. And here let's just go and create our API.dart. Right now we'll be talking about state management with the help of setState. So let me just first quickly add the HTTP package and call the API. We'll be not focusing about the code generation in this particular video, just the state management and the API integration within that particular state management. So let me just add the HTTP package, hit pub get, and that will add the HTTP package for us. Next, let's go back to API.dart, create a class API and static const, and here let's create a API for list of posts, get posts, and here let's just import the model for the post, and this will call the API. So the API is get, so let's just use get method URI dot parse, and we can simply use go back, copy the URL, paste that URL right here. Now this get post will take offset, so double offset, let's make that required, and we'll be using a double for limit, and actually it's not double, it's int. So offset and limit, we'll be passing both of these for the pagination control. Let's pass this limit and offset as well. Alright then, so dot then, and here we'll be getting our response back. Let's create a completer, otherwise await we can use, so let me just use that instead. So let's make it as async method. Instead of dot then, we will simply going to use await, and here I'll be getting our response back. So with this response we are going to parse it, response dot body JSON decode, because this body will be a string, so we'll convert that into a map and we'll get our response back. So final data is equals to data. Perfect. Next, so this data that we'll be getting is in the form of this. We want users, so data users, and then we can simply loop it over, and I can do the same thing and I don't need a loop now. Dot to list, and here let's just use users to get directly the users. Perfect. And we can return this list of posts. Let's change that to future. So alright, so this get post will get the post from the internet, and based on the offset and the limit we can simply get the data. So here we will not be calling this in init state, because as we are scrolling we want to fetch the data again. So I'm going to remove this from here, and I'm going to make this as empty posts. Next, what we can do is let's create a scroll controller. So final scroll controller, and let's initialize our scroll controller. Let's pass that inside our list view. So controller is scroll controller, and right here in the init state, what I'm going to do is whenever the maximum scroll instant position is pixel, that means we don't have any data anymore, or we cannot scroll, we are at the end. Then it will check if the loading is false. That means it will go make the loading as true, and here we can call the API fetch more posts, and then we can again show the data. So that's what we are going to do. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to print call API instead, and let's just go to run and do one hot restart. So here you can see that the call API is not coming right now, and that is because the scroll view does not have any data. So what we have to do is we have to first call the API as well here in the init state only. What I'll do is I'll call the API, so we'll have the class API.getPosts, and then limit I'll just make it constant. We will not be passing the limit,
and the limit I'll make 10. So after every 10 entries, it will just keep on going, and the offset only we will pass. So let's go back and let's remove the limit from here. I'll copy the offset and I'll create a variable of int type. So int offset, and in the beginning it will be 0. So it will get the offsets for us, and once we have the offset, or sorry, the posts, then we are going to simply add those here in posts. Right, so right now post we have is of type widget. Instead of that, I'll make it a type of post, and here only we'll pass the post. Okay, next the posts that we are passing here, I'll wrap that with the post section, and post I'll make it as perfect. Next here we'll be having, so we don't have date time, there we go. And okay, so this posts, and it should work. And now we can call our setState method to rebuild the UI. So that is the first type of state management that is already in Flutter. So now you can see that our API is calling. We are using the setState. Now the problem with setState is that whenever I'm rebuilding the front end part, whenever setState is called, then it will automatically rebuild everything. So if I only want to rebuild the data like the body, but it will rebuild also the Instagram logo, the icons, or any other widget that we have. So if I only want to update likes value, and if I am using setState, it will automatically update the entire flow of the application, the list view as well. That is not what we want, and that performance computation is not required for the CPU. We don't want that, right? But if it is a personal project and you don't want to complicate things that much, then setState is totally fine. I use that as well. But if you're feeling lag here, then you can always change it to state management that we'll talk about just in a moment. So perfect. Next, this setState that we are having. Now if I want to scroll, so here inside the list view.builder, what I'll do is I'll add whatever length we have, I'll make it like that. And if index is equals to post dot length minus 1, so here I'll just pass the circular progress indicator, which will help me scroll. Yeah, and let me just add some padding around it. Symmetric, horizontal, okay, sorry, vertical, and 8 will do the job. So yeah, there we go. Next, what we'll do here, instead of call API, same logic we'll add for the get posts, and here posts dot add all. So that will add all of the posts, and then we have to call the setState because state management anything is not there. Perfect. So this will update. Next, the offset that we are passing right now, whenever we are calling the API, we have to change the offset value as well. So let's just increment that. And here also I'll just increment that by 1. So let me hot restart now. Here we have to increment by the offset, sorry, the limit, not by 1. Let's hot restart now. So here let's scroll down, it will fetch more. That's right, it will again fetch, and that's it. So This pagination is working fine. Next, what I wanted to do is let's add the like button here. So the likes we will manage for each of the posts, and we'll show the like counter here. On clicking that like counter, bottom sheet we can open, and inside that bottom sheet we can show the pages that we have liked on, and we can disable that. And that's how we can manage the state management in different layers or different pages inside the app. So let's do that, and then we'll compare with different state managements. Let's go to the post, and here let's just add final. Okay, int likes we have, right? So this is 10, 11. So the ID right now we were assigning to the likes. What I will do is instead I'll make the likes as 0. So whenever we are rebuilding that, our likes will be assigned as 0. And here we can go, and this post that we have, on clicking like, and here we have the image of this. So let me just wrap this thing up inside gesture detector, and on tapping on liked updated. So here let's just go and add a function, final function on like updated. Let's add widget dot on like updated. So now whenever on clicking this image, we'll be setting the like update count, and here I'll pass color. So color if post dot likes is equals to 1, that means that will show colors dot red accent, otherwise null, right? And here inside the home page we will go, and here I'll pass on like update index, and then here we can just change post index dot likes. Now this likes that we have, we will not be having this as final. I'll remove the final, and let's pass the index as well. Okay, let me hot restart now. So everyone will have 0 likes by default, and if I click, it will change to 1 like. But the problem here is that I didn't add setState. So let's go back on like update where I added here. We'll be calling the setState, so it will rebuild the UI for that, and now we can like it. Fine. Next I can like this one, and the previous one is liked only. Now what I want is, here instead of these icons, I'll remove that from our home page. So let's go header section, and here I'll just remove the sized box. We can add a text, total like counter, and here we'll show the likes. So now we have to pass something here. So final list of posts. So now posts we will pass. With these posts, I'll just pass that dot. So widget dot posts dot map e dot likes, so how many likes we have, and then we'll add that A and B, and yeah, now let's just go pass the header section here, posts. So total counter we are getting as 2. Now if I change the counter to 3, you can see that here it's not updating. The problem is that the state that we are changing is changing for the post section. So if we are calling the setState in post section, that means it is only going to update the widgets inside this particular stateful class, stateful widget, not before the ancestor widgets. That means if I am on clicking and I am updating the value inside the post, but I also want to update that outside that particular widget inside our app bar or headers, then right now if we are only using setState, we'll talk about state management as well. But if we are using setState, then we have to make this outside and where we are calling on like update. So here I'll make it as setState. Now what will happen, this setState will rebuild everything, so including the app bar headers, and that will update our value as well. Let me hot restart now. Okay, we've got one error, so that is a bad state element. Let's see. So here in header section, okay, the problem was we were not passing anything. So let me just quickly add a condition dot is empty 0. That's it. So let me just hot restart again to check everything works. Perfect. Counter value is 0. I'll update 1. We have 1. I'll make it as 2. But in the background, Flutter is rebuilding the entire widget of this home page, including the header, including the post section, everything. All right. Next, what I need to do here is inside the header section. First, let me just bold that. Okay. Now the counter that we have made, on clicking that, so let's just change that to text button child text, and let's just pass the text style as well, and on pressed also. So now we have our button ready. So let me just pass the style text button dot style from foreground color as black. That'll do the job. So on clicking this button, we need to open a bottom sheet. So let's design that bottom sheet now. So here inside the home page components, we have home page components, circular progress, circular profile widget, that is this one, header section, the header, post, and the story list view. Okay, so this post section, so let's make another component for our bottom sheet now. So I'll name it as like bottom sheet. Right, let's import material and let's make it stateful, so it will have a state and we can rebuild the stuff. And here let's just make a container. Yep. and what is this container? Okay, fine. Now this like bottom sheet we have to call from our header section, so we are having our counters. Now what we have to do is I need to pass my posts again to this like button sheet. So this is a very common problem if we are not using any state management. Then that time if we have to pass variables from one screen to another, since there is no like state management or inherited widget, in that case we will have to be passing inside our parameters of that class. So we have to create those final parameters and then pass that post over and over again. And if for example I need to make another variable and pass that again, so I have to add that variable in all of the classes again, and this can be much more error prone if we are making an application like that. We'll talk about how we can use inherited widget to fix this problem, but let's just focus on using setState only for now. So let me just go back, final list of posts, and let's make it as posts. And there we go. We have our post now, and let's go back to header section, and here this post will come from our widget dot posts. Perfect. So now what we can do is we can simply make a list view. So basically widget dot posts index. Now if dot likes is equals to 1, that means it's true, and on changing value then 1, otherwise 0. Okay, so this will change and we have to call setState. Let me hot restart now. Like counter is 0. I like that. I'll open up the bottom sheet and you can see that this Kila has been liked here. There is one error. Let's just fix that. So here if we go back, dot posts index not in inclusive range. Okay, because we are not passing the length, so let me just pass item count length. Perfect. Let me just hot restart now and let's like it, open it up. There we go. Now if I make it false, it's coming as false, but if I go back, you can see that it's still liked and it is still as 1. Same issue, if we are calling the setState inside this particular class, the widget will change, the post will change here, but it will not change in the previous sections. It will change now if I call hot reload. So now if I hot reload, you can see it's updated, because setState only changed inside the bottom sheet of the class and not in the outside widget, the ancestor widget of that. Makes sense, I hope. So what we have to do, we cannot call setState here. That is why state management makes this so much easier. Like if we are on any widget, any child widget, we can update the state of any ancestor widget very easily. So here what we have to do now is, instead of making like this on changed, I have to make it inside homepage only, like we did here, right? So what I have to do now is, let's go down and here on count changed, same thing we'll do. Let me just copy this only, on like count changed. We'll be getting one value here instead. and based on that value we will be having our thing. So value and we'll also have our index. Okay, so let's just add that, and here I'm going to simply paste that value index. That's it. Let's call it a widget. Perfect. So now let's go back to headers, and we are passing, okay, so it's widget dot. Let me hot restart now. So now if I like it and if I disable it, you can see it turned to 0, but it's not working here now in the inside the bottom sheet. Why? Because I removed the set state. So let me just quickly add that. I'll make it as like off, and here also it is off. This is how we were using state management using set state. Number one, it is not at all ideal way to do it. If I was making this type of application, like for example, we have e-commerce application where we have shopping carts, that time I would probably used inherited widget rather than set state, or better if we are using any other state management libraries, right? So using just set state is not at all ideal in this particular approach. So now let's move on to inherited widget, and let's incorporate that with our set state to see like how it can change. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to commit all of that. So let me commit the code here. Set state implemented. Yeah, commit and push, and I'll push the code to our set state branch. Perfect. Now let's make a new branch from our set state branch. So I'll create a new branch from set state, and I'm going to name it as inherited widget. Perfect. We'll make the logic much better, so that right now what's happening is every time I want to update anything, I need to call the callback method and then add set state after that. So inside the home page, you can see that I am calling the callback method when we are updating value, and then we are calling set state inside the home page, not in that particular widget. So that's what we are going to see now. What we have to do is first we have to create our inherited widget. So inside the lib, what I am going to do is inside widgets, let's create an inherited widget right here. So I'm going to make as inherited home widget. So here inside the inherited home widget, what we have to do is we will be passing our posts. So all of the posts that we have will be stored inside one global inherited widget that can be accessed by the child, right? So we have to pass the inherited home widget to our ancestor class right above our scaffold, because every widget that we want to access home widget data, that is post, will be below our scaffold and below our inherited home widget. So that's what we have to incorporate here. We have to add that. Okay, so let's go back to our inherited home widget and then add the inherited home widget class. Basically what's happening here is that we are making a class which is extended the Flutter inbuilt inherited widget, and here we are making a variable that is posts. So all of the posts that we have inside the class will be stored directly inside inherited home widget, and we can access all of the posts. So we don't have to call our callback method and then pass the data to the home page. So post we will be passing, and we have made a off method here, off context method,
This particular method you have also seen inside theme.off context, media query.off context. So in Flutter, it is usually like we make off context method, a static method we have made using the context, and which it is basically fetching the inherited home widget from the ancestors widget that we have inside our widget tree. So basically this line is doing that. Once we have the inherited widget, we can access that and get the posts. And at last we have this update notifier. So what it is doing, it is that whenever the post value is updated, it should rebuild the widget whichever is using the post. So I'll make it as true only, because we have to update those widgets as well wherever posts is used, right? So this inherited home widget we'll be using now inside our home widget. So let me wrap that. Alright, so here inherited home widget we can pass, and let's just copy that, and inside the main.dart what we can do is let's make a class here. So I'll make a stateless class for our post provider, right? And this class will accept a child, so final widget child, and let me just pass that child here. Now we can simply pass our inherited home widget, we can pass our posts as empty, and we can pass the child. That's it. Now this post provider, we can wrap that to our home page, and let's just wrap that up. That's it. So next what we can do, now inside our widget tree we have our inherited home widget, so we can access that using our static off context method that we have made, right? So what I can do next is let's go back to our home page, and here wherever we are using the post, we don't have to use the post anymore. So what we can do, I'll remove the post now, and here we can simply access it with the help of inherited home widget dot of context. So now we have our inherited widget method, and then we can access our posts, right? So I can simply access that. Likewise I'll do same everywhere. So wherever we are having our posts, I've removed that. Let's just go there and use the posts. So on clicking, you can see everything works still. So now what we have done is we have removed the posts. So now we don't have to pass posts anymore. So now like we are passing the posts here, I don't have to pass that. I can just go to the header section, and we don't have to pass the posts here as well. And now here also we can simply pass our inherited home widget and access that, right? And we inside the like button sheet as well, what we can do is we don't have to pass the posts anymore, and I can simply make a variable for my posts, and that's it. Now I'll replace all of the widget.post with the posts and hit replace all, and let's just call that. So let's just go to the home page now, and here we are accepting posts. So let me remove that. Perfect. Let's hot restart now. Alright then. So now let's check it out. I can go to the like, and like is working, and yeah, I can dislike as well. And if I go to the like counter, here also it's working 1, 0 backwards. So it's working fine. Number 1, inherited widget is not used per se for the state management solution. Rather, it is used to pass variables from the ancestor widget to the child widget with the help of context that we have. So if you go to the inherited home widget as well, you can see that the main thing that is happening here is that we are using this of context method to fetch the inherited widget from our widget tree. So from the context, it is depending on the inherited widget type of exact type. So it is fetching the exact type of inherited home widget from our widget tree with the help of context. Once we have the inherited widget, we can get its properties, we can update that. Because the posts here is not final, we can update that, but the inherited widgets on its own is immutable, meaning we cannot update the inherited widget, but we can replace them. So let me just commit this code of the inherited widget. So the basic use of inherited widget is to make the code a little more readable, and so that we don't have to pass the posts every time we need in a child widget. We can simply access that with the help of our inherited widget that we have made. Okay, so let me just commit that code and let's go to our provider implementation. So inherited home widget. All right, so let's commit and push and hit push. All right, so next let's go and make a new branch from our inherited widget that will be provider. Let's create and let's talk about that. So first, let me open a browser and show you the library of the provider. So let's go to provider pubdev. Yep. So this is provider, and that's what we are going to use. And you can see that it is a wrapper around inherited widget to make them easier to use and more reusable. So we will be using provider, and let's just copy that and add it inside our pubspec YAML file. And let me just add that. Next, once the library is added, what we are going to do is, here you can see that we have made our inherited widget right over here, inherited home widget, and inside our main.dat we have made a post provider. What now we are going to do, we are going to make a provider which will extend the change notifier. So let me just remove this post provider from here, and let me rename this inherited home widget to our post provider now. And we can go inside that, and here let's just remove this, and let's create a class post provider that will extend our change notifier, which is not a part of the provider library, but instead inside material.dat we have change notifier that we can use. Perfect. So next what we can do, we can simply create our list of posts that we were doing earlier as well, right? So I'm going to import our post model, create a constructor, and I'm going to create a method update posts, which here we'll get list of posts as new posts, and it will update the new posts. Void add posts. Here also we'll get some posts, and we are going to add all to that. So posts dot add all new posts. Here we cannot make it final because then we won't be able to update it, so I'll just remove that final. Here provider we are not using, but if we want to update the UI for that particular post, if the post is changed, for that we have a method notify listeners that we can use. So I'm going to just pass that notify listeners, and that will notify the listeners for me. Perfect. Now this post provider, I can use it inside my main.dat and initialize that right here. So let's wrap our, so I'll remove this post provider from here, and I'll wrap our material app with change notifier provider, and inside that create we can pass, which is a builder, so context, and here we can pass our post provider. Right now I'll just remove that, and let's make the posts as default as empty. Perfect. So this is okay. So next, our main.dart. Now inside our home page we can access our post provider just like inherited widget we were doing. So here inside the change notifier provider, we can just go inside, and here instead of this inherited home widget I can call provider dot of context, and here let's pass post provider as the type, and we can get the posts, and for the post we can assign it dot update posts and call that method right here. Same we can do below as well. So here I can call dot add posts, and that will add these new posts. I will rename this variable as new posts here instead. Okay, and likewise I'll rename it here also. Next, what we can do is inside our build method, you can see that we are accessing the inherited home widget. We can change that and use our provider instead. How we can do that is we can remove the set state right here, and I can paste this inside build method as well, so that we can use this post provider instead of the inherited widget that we were using earlier. And I'll remove this as well with the post provider and hit replace all and format the code. So what's happening here is that we are using the post provider, and using that we are accessing the posts, and from the post everything is same like we were doing inside inherited widget. Now let's go back first to the home header section and remove this inherited widget from here as well. Right, so we are passing the posts here. What I will do next is I'll first remove this, format the code. Next, we don't need this post inside header section, this on like update. So let me just remove this method now. Because we have made provider, we can access the provider or post anywhere. That means we don't need that, and setState is also not required. So I'll just remove that and add a const instead to the header section, which will be much more performance efficient. Now let's go to our like button sheet. Post now we don't have to pass as well, and on like update also is not required. Let's go to the like button sheet, and here post and on like update both are not required. And we can simply go and here also change item count and item builder. So first on changed, what I'll do is I'll make it as widget.posts. Now let's go back to home page. I'll copy this post provider and I'm going to paste that inside the build method as well. Let's import provider as well as our post provider model. Now let's replace the widget dot with post provider dot and hit replace all, so that will replace everything for us, right? And instead of using setState, we will not be using that anymore. Next, let's go back. I can add a const now, and here also we have our total like counter. So I can create a variable right here for our post provider. Let me just copy that and paste that inside header section. and we can import provider and our provider, and I can simply paste these as well. Perfect. So this is done as well. Let's go back to our home page now. Now, as you can see, our header section is cleared, and let's go to our post section as well. So now this is our post section, and here you can see that we will not be passing our on like update here as well now. So what I'll do, I'll just take it down. Set state also we will not be needing. Post we are passing, that is fine. Index we are passing, that is fine as well. Actually index we will not be needing anymore, just post is fine. So on like update and index, these two we can pass. Next what I can do is I can simply copy that and use that post provider. Let's go and copy the post provider and call the method. Okay, index we need, so I'll just add index here. Final int index, and let's just use that index here. Inside the home page, let's just pass index. Now we have removed our set state as well. So if I restart the application, I'll remove the set state from here as well. So now let's remove set state from here. So now we don't have any set state. If you see now, it's still loading. The API is called. Why? Because we are not calling our set state method. So we don't want that. We want only that particular widgets that we are using for the post, only that should rebuild on its own. How we can do that is, let's just go here to our header section, and inside that, whenever the post is changing, the text that we have, that has to rebuild. So this text that we have, that should rebuild. So what we can do, we can wrap this with a builder. I can name it as consumer. We can pass the type as post provider. This context, so this builder that we have, it takes provider and the widget. So here we can go and use the provider and access the post as well. So basically whenever the post provider here is updated, this total like counter should be updated as well. So this will update also inside our post section and our loading. So you can see that we have is loading as true, and whenever it is updated inside the list view, so this list view has to be updated as well. So we can wrap that with the builder as well. Let me change it to consumer, and we can pass provider and our widget. So here inside the consumer, I can pass post provider, and that will just work, and I can remove it from here. Let me hot restart now, and you can see it works fine. So now I can try to click on it, and on clicking, it's not changing right now. So if I scroll down, let's check the pagination as well. So yes, so the pagination is working fine. Let me scroll up right now, and let's click here. So the text is not changing as well. Yeah, on hot reloading, you can see it's changing again. So let's go there now. Inside the header section, let's go, and inside the like button sheet, you can see that we are changing our posts like that, because we are not calling any notify listeners or not changing in that way. So what I can do is, let's go back to our post provider, and I can create a method here. update like, and what it will do is it will accept the index, and here based on that we can change the index. So let me just control X this part or copy that, and here post provider dot update like, we can pass the index and we can pass the value whatever we want to update it to. Yeah, so it will be an integer and we can pass that, and we'll be getting the likes based on that. So like that I can update the like count. So here it should work now. Next, let's go to our post section as well, and here also I am updating on clicking based on that. So let's just go and call our post provider dot update like. I can pass widget dot index and I can pass the value as well. Right. So now let's hot restart once again, and let me try to like now. You can see it's working fine. And let's click on that. Let me click here. Okay, so here it's not working as you can see. Let's go to our like bottom sheet, and on changing it's fine, but as you can see that here it's not updating. Perfect. Listen true we have to pass here, and now it's working as well. So now I can like the post based on that, and we are not using setState as well anywhere. So that's how provider we can integrate inside our application. And what's happening right now is that we are not rebuilding the widgets that we don't want to. So for example, here in this particular case we only want to rebuild the text that we have here and the list view. But if we have any other widgets, for example, that we don't want to rebuild, for example, if we have a complicated layout column and rows and multiple widgets, and we don't want to rebuild every widget, we just want to rebuild only specific one widget, that time provider can be very handy as well. So all right, let me just commit that code now, because our provider is implemented as well. Commit and push that code. Next, let's understand GetX. So GetX is another state management library in Flutter that we can use, and it's quite similar as well to provider, but it offers much more than provider as well. So it is more of a state management. It has its own dependency injection, it has like storage inside it, it has navigation, so like a lot of things we can do in GetX. So let me just add in pubspec.yaml, and let me show you GetX as well. So GetX pubdev. Yep. So you can see that it is not just only a state management, it is used for navigation management, dependency management, and like a lot more things we can use in that. And it is quite easy as well. And for beginners, I would say provider is must, because everywhere you go, it's like the basics of the state management that you should know. GetX is like the second one that you can learn, and it's quite easy and you can learn it like very easily. So let's just add GetX and change our provider code that we have wrote right now to our GetX. First, what I'll do is I'll change the branch here. Provider we have, new branch I'll make for our GetX, and let's make that. Next, I'll just remove the version because it's not compatible with the latest version, and our get is added as well. Now let's go back and remove the provider. So I'll just remove the provider and we'll get errors in our files. That is fine. Next, what we can do is, instead of this post provider, I'll rename it to our post controller. So like in provider, we make provider classes. Here we'll make our GetX controller. So basically what it is, it's here, instead of extending to the change notifier, first I'll rename the class. So I'll rename it to our post controller. Okay. Next, I'll change this extend from change notifier to GetX controller. Right. And I'll import the library for the get. Now this notify listeners we cannot use because that is coming from the change notifier that we were using earlier. So what, I'll just remove that, and everything else will remain exactly the same. Next, what we are going to do is this post that we have, there is a concept of OBS and OBX inside GetX controller, and it is quite easy. So here what I can do is I can change this list to a type of RX list, and that RX list that we have, I can assign it to posts. So now this post we can change based with the help of dot value. So post dot value equals to this post dot add all, and post index dot likes, so post, and we can change that. So with the help of RX list we can update. Next, what we can do, let's just go back to our main.dart and remove our method right here. So I'll just remove that, our change notifier, and let me just pass the material app, and let's remove and take out the state management. Next, inside home page, what we can do, I'll remove this, and now what we can do, instead of here on top, I can create our controller equals to get dot put. So get dot put, and I can pass our post controller right here, and let's import get.dart. Now we can use this controller instead. So now I can simply copy that, and I can remove our post provider, and let me just take this out as well from widget binding, and simply use our controller dot add post instead. Everything will remain exactly the same, as you can see. And here also, now in provider we were using consumer, but in GetX we have OBX. So OBX is also a builder. So OBX, you can see, we can use that. And what it takes a method we have to pass with no parameters, and we can use that, and whenever the UI is rebuilt for that variable, it will automatically update only that widget, nothing else. So here I can simply use our controller instead. So controller.post, and here as well. Let's just go back to our post section now, and let's just go create our controller, post controller, and I can simply now use that controller to update our like. Right. And let me remove the provider package from here. Perfect. Let's go to the like bottom sheet, and here also I'll use controller, and let's just use our get.find post controller, and using that controller we can access these things. Pretty easy, right? So here what's happening is inside our home page we are initializing, so we are using get.put. But after that, whenever we have to access it, we can simply use get.find, as you have noticed as well. So get.find will find that controller, and we can simply use the controller that was already initialized inside our home page, and we can access that, so that the posts that we have will be same in all of the instances of controller. So let's go and fix our header section now. Consumer we have here, so I am going to simply wrap that up with obx and make it as a method, and I'm going to import get, and controller we have to initialize here as well. So let's just go, and I will simply copy it from our like bottom sheet and paste that right here. Provider package I'll remove, and controller now we can use, and I'll paste that. Perfect. So let's just try it out now. I'll hot restart. So like is not working. I can try the pagination once. And yes, the pagination is working fine, but the like counter is not working. And here, because the post value that we have is coming from value, add all is a method inside post. The issue is inside the update like. So as you can see, what I have made is I first get the post at that particular index, then we are removing that, changing the like value, and then I'm inserting it back, because the post variable that we have, only that is made as rx list, that is obs. So that is why we have to change the post variable instead. So now if I hot restart, you can see that it's working fine. I can click on like button as well, and here also it's working. I can click here and counter is changing as well. So our state management is working fine. Till now, what we have talked about is the use of state management with the help of GetX. It's quite easy, and if I personally use any of the projects, for example, for a freelance project which is not that much serious, which is like a medium level project, then I would personally use or recommend GetX state management, because it is not only a state management solution, but it provides much more things to work with as well. All right then. Till now we have implemented our changing the front-end logic inside our state management, but there is one more important thing that is used in state management, that is a benefit of state management, and that is separating the front end with our logical part. So all of the logic that we are having, if I am calling any API, that should not be inside my front end or the UI screen. It should be separate inside my logic layer of the application. So inside our class, we should add that as well. Right now, you can see that inside my home page, there is get post that we are calling, which is nothing but the logical part inside the init state. So I should move that inside our controller. So now what I can do, I can create a void get posts, and now I can simply paste that our API logic here. We can make it more complicated if you see the block architecture, for example, or if you see the clean architecture, you'd probably be knowing that we have a repository, their implementation, and we have separate layers in that. But that is not mandatory, and here we can simply call the update post method once the API is called. Perfect. Next, what I'll do, I'll also make our offset inside our controller. So I'll just assign it here, and this get post also that we are having, what I'll do is I'll make one method. Okay, So the difference in these two methods, as you can see, first thing is we have is loading. So we have to change that. So let me just take this out and I'll put it right here. Second, I'll make it as RX as well, so that on clicking it should update. And for the default value, let's make it true.obs. Perfect. Next, I'll make it dot value as false and add posts. Now this is for our scroll controller that we have made. So let me create another method on scroll end. So this method can be controlled with the help of controller dot on scroll end. That method we can call, and this API we can remove, so there won't be any logic inside our UI. Next, this is loading also. We can take it from our controller and I can pass is true. That's right. Perfect. So that's how now our logical part that we have, the header here is not required. I'll remove that. So you can see that only UI that we have is there inside our home page and nothing else, and the code is quite short now, and all of the logical part that we are having is inside our post controller. All right, so this is our post controller and we are having all of our logic right here. So we have separated that as well. That's it for the GetX. Now let me just commit the code as well for our GetX implementation, and next move on with our next state management solution. Alright then, so our code is committed and pushed to the GitHub as well. Our next library that we have to compare with is Bloc. Now we've talked about setState, we have talked about GetX, we have talked about provider. setState for the personal projects, GetX and provider from small to medium level projects or freelance projects. But the next two that we are having are Bloc and Riverpod. These two I personally would recommend that if you are working on a team, or if you have a very long-term project, or the application is like quite large, like a big e-commerce application, or like a lot of screens are there, lot of logic is there. So I would highly recommend to go with architecture and state management libraries like Bloc with clean architecture and Riverpod. These two libraries are quite well, and that's what we are going to talk about in the next portion of our video. So let me make a new branch now from our GetX. The branch name will be Bloc. So let's create that. So inside the Bloc library, first let's change our folder structure to clean architecture, because it's always better if we are using Bloc, then we have to follow a folder structure, and it's better to clean our folder structure as well at this point, because we are making it for a like medium to large projects. So what I like to do with my folder structure, if I am making a large project, then I'll add config, I'll add core, I'll add features, that's it. So inside the features, we'll be having our home page. So I'll add different modules. So each module we can add here. So for example, home page we have, and I'll take this home page, these two components and homepage.dart to our features. All right, so our components and our homepage.dart is moved inside our features. Next, what I will do, so we have our core and config. So inside our features, we will not be having inside our homepage directly these two. So we'll make like data, domain, presentation. So inside the clean architecture, we have data, domain and presentation. So let me just make those folders as well. So new, domain and presentation. And I'll move our homepage.dart inside our presentation as well as our components. So that will be our presentation. Next, inside our domain, I'll add folders, entities, repository, and use cases. And inside our data, we'll add data sources, models, and repository. Alright. So here inside data sources, I preferably use code generation with retrofit package. But in this particular video, I'm just going to drag our api.dart file that we have and add that. Yep. And let me just rename that to our home page API service. That's what I add, API service, and let's just do refactor. Perfect. Next, we have our API is removed. I can remove that now. Now this constants that we have, I generally add that inside my core. So I'll just drag that inside core. So inside the core of the application, all of the constants, utils, global variables, we can pass that. Inside the config, I generally manage the theme, assets, all of that. So here, for example, we are managing the assets. So let's just go there. And this views, I'll just remove that now. Now this model of the post that we have, I'll take that out and I'm going to add that model inside our entity and inside our data layer model. Alright, so let me just drag that and add that inside our entities, and let's just remove this models as well. So now we have our features, and inside that, let's go to our presentation, and here the asset that we were having, let me just remove config from here now. Core is only fine. And next, let's just remove this and use this assets. Let me just go to story list view and update it everywhere. Fine. So presentation is done. Inside entities, I added post.dart. Here we can extend that with our equitable package. So let's just add that as well. So open up pubspec.yaml and here add the equitable library, is small. So okay, so equitable, and that is added. And let me just import that equitable. Next, we have to add our props. So let's just override that. And here, let's create a list and we'll pass all of these. Perfect. So the use of equitable is so that we can compare the variables or the object of the post class that we have. Directly we cannot do that, but by extending that with the equitable, we can use the props and then we can compare the props of that class so that we can compare two objects of posts. So that's what we are going to add that inside our entities, and then inside our models also same, we'll add post.dart, and here we will not be having this from JSON. So entity, what it means is that there only will be the business entity, the logic of the model that we are having, only that we will pass. All of the parsing and all the from JSON, from dict or any other source that we are parsing from, that we'll add it from our data layer, not inside our domain layer. Inside the domain layer, that will not change. So I'm going to take the factory method out, and that's what we are going to put it right over here. So I'm going to create a class post, and let me change the name to entity now. Right, so post entity, and here we'll make a class of post which will extend from our post entity. Now we have to make constructor. So let me just make that constructor here, const post. We'll call the super, and here we'll pass all of these caption, comments, likes, post, profile, username. So let me just copy all of this from here and put it right over here inside post as well. So the posts are of type list of string, and here let's just add a comma. Next, let's just go and copy that, put it, paste, and comma. Comments, and I'll remove the const. So that is done as well. Next, so our post model and our post entity is done. Our data sources, I added that as well. Let me just pass our models right here. Next, our data source is done, model is done. Now we have to work on our repository inside data and domain. So inside our data, we'll add the repository implementation. So I'll create here our home page repository implementation, and here I'll add our home page repository. That's it. Inside our repository, we'll make our abstract class for the data state. Before that, let's just go inside core and I'll add my resources here. So, and it will be an abstract class for the data state, which will be having a data or a error, and both are nullable. The data will be of a generic type, so it can be anything. The classes for the data state can be data success or data failed. So based on that, we'll be having inside our repository. So let's make an abstract class for our home page repository. And here I'll add future data state list of posts, and method will be get posts. That's it. Now let me just import the data state, and that's it. Now we have to implement that get posts method inside our data layer and repository implementation. So we'll make a class home page repository implementation, which will extend our home page repository. Now here I'll get an error to override that, so I'll just override that method for our get posts. And here I'll add async as well to remove the error. Now whenever any error, any HTTP exception we have, I'll return data failed. Otherwise inside the try, First, we'll initialize our data source service of the API. So here we have our API. I'll rename that to home page API service. And now we can simply initialize that inside our implementation. So get posts we can call, and we'll be getting an offset. So this offset that we are having, I need to pass that inside the get posts. Domain layer, repository, and homepage repository. I'll add a int offset as well. So now let's go back to get posts, and here we'll be getting int offset as well. And now I can use that. Let's call await, and we'll be getting posts right here. Now I can return data success post. So now what will happen is our repository that we have made, I need to connect that with our use cases. So let's create that. I'll make a use case for fetch posts use case. And inside that, first let's add core use case. I'll add, which is nothing but an abstract class that we have made for the use case, which is an abstract class of type and parameters we can pass. So here I'll make it as class fetch posts use case implements. We'll have to implement our use case, which will be a data state, which will have our list of post and integer. And next I'll just add our posts. We have to override a method for call, and here we'll be getting our int params. So here I'll be getting our offset that, and I'll be getting this parameters. Homepage repository, I can call that, and I can get the posts right here, and I can pass the params as well as the offset. Now this get post will return the data state list post int. Here, quick thing to note that we can use dependency injection, and I can use the getit package, and we can inject these dependencies, the API service, home repository, but that's for another video. And I'm simply going to add the home repository directly inside the call method and not inside the constructor of our use case. Great. Let's go now to our, so now we can use this particular use case inside our controller. So let's go to the presentation. Here we'll have components, and I'll make another folder for controllers, and I'll make another folder for pages, and I'll drag drop our home page inside pages. Now the components, there is one error. Let's just solve that. All right, so post we'll import, and inside this controllers, I'll simply drag and drop our post controller that we've made earlier. That's right. Now here inside our post controller, what I am going to do is that we'll not be accessing the API, but instead we'll be accessing our use case. So I'm going to import our fetch post use case equals to fetch post use case. So now this fetch post use case we can call, and here I can pass the params as offset dot then now this value will be our data state, and if data state is success and data is not empty, that means we have got the posts, so we can simply update that with our data state dot data. That's right. Awesome. And we'll remove this. Likewise, I'm going to copy that, and on scroll end also I'm going to paste that, and same we'll do here. All right, and I'll remove this both imports. Perfect. So right now what we have done is, with the help of GetX, we have not integrated Bloc yet, but we have changed our folder structure of the entire application. Right now you can see that we have our global widgets, which is nothing. We have a features, we have core. Inside core we have constants, resources for data state and use case. Then we have our features, where we'll be adding different modules of the application, for example our home page. Then we'll have our data, domain and presentation. Data will be having data sources, models and repository. Data sources will be having our API. Models will be extending from our post entity that we have made inside our domain entities, and repository inside our data sources, inside data will be the implementation of our domain layer repository that we have added. And this use case will connect the repository and our controller together. Inside our presentation we have components, which is nothing but the common widgets inside those pages. We have controllers and we have our home page. Controller we have for our post controller, which is using the use case, repository, data source, back to it till our controller and UI. So that is clean architecture. Let me hot restart now to check if everything works or not. Meanwhile it's running. Let me change the branch name from Bloc, because right now we haven't implemented Bloc, to clean architecture. So as you can see that now I've hot restarted the application as well, and everything is working fine. So I can click on the like button as well. Counter is changing. I can go up, I can change that, counter is changing as well, and I can scroll, see those likes, and I can use the pagination as well. But in the background we have changed the entire folder structure to clean architecture. So let me commit that as well, so that you guys can see inside the GitHub code. So let's just go and make clean architecture implemented. Commit and push, and let's push that to GitHub. All right, so we have some unversioned files, so let me just quickly commit and push those as well, and click push. Perfect. Next, what we are having is to change this clean architecture to Bloc. So we are going to incorporate Bloc here. So now let's create a new branch from clean architecture to Bloc. And now is the time to change our get package to our Flutter Bloc. So let's just add that Flutter Bloc and hit pub get. that this is the Flutter block library that we'll be using. You can just add that, copy it from here and paste that. I'll just added the name and the package is successfully added. Next, you can see there will be errors now in presentation. We'll be having errors. So first, what I'm going to do is work on this controller. So first, inside controllers, I'll add our post events and post states. So inside the block, I can change this controllers to block as well if need be. We can change that to block, and here let's change this. So now this post controller that we have made, and first let me add some events. So there will be a post event abstract class, and we'll be extending that with our get posts event and a scroll end event. So we have to get if we have an event for getting the posts, and we have an event if we are scrolling till the end. So if we have reached the end. And inside the states also, so inside our post states also, we'll be having our post state abstract class. We have our initial state, loaded, loading and error. So these three state we'll be having for our post. Now we have event, we have state. Now we need our block. So post underscore block, I'll make a new file. All right, and add a async as well. So this on event is added on get posts event. Likewise, what I'm going to do is scroll end event I'll add, and here we have our second one. So I'm going to just paste that logic. This will be emit. We'll change all the yield returns to emit because that is changed in the latest block version. Perfect. So that is done as well. Now what we have to do is that let's just go to our pages inside our home page, remove get, and now first let's go inside our main.dart and wrap our home page with block provider. So let me just import that, create I'll pass, and that will take a context, and here now we can pass our post block. All right, so that's it. Now we can access our block inside our home page. Controller that we have made, we'll remove that from here, and inside the build method I'll put our block provider for our post block. So that's right, and now this will be our controller that we can use. Okay, and instead of this obx, we'll be having our block builder, right? So next, this post state I'll add. So now we have added our block builder, and here we'll use our widget binding dot instance dot add post frame callback. We'll get our controller here as well, and then I'm going to control X and paste this logic here. Now here we can add an event for the get post event, and below I can make scroll end event. So I can pass that, and that will do the trick. Now what I have to do is we have to change the header section. So everywhere wherever this get is passed, we'll add our block provider controller instead. and let me just pass this block, and here we'll pass our block builder, which will have our post block and our post state as well. We'll pass our builder, which will have context and the state. Next, let's go to our like bottom sheet. Same thing, change the controller, add block builder, and it will be of type post block and post state. Let's pass the builder, which will have our context and the state. Next, our post section, remove this get as well, and here we'll be having our controller. So let me just quickly add that, and then we can update the likes. Awesome. So let me now hot restart. So okay, so the like is not working, else if I scroll down, pagination is working fine. Alright, so what's happening is on clicking the update like, we are not using the event for the block, so the block builder is not calling. So we have to add an event here. So let's just go back to our post events and create our new event. So that will be on like click event. Makes sense. And let's just go back, add this event. That's it. Now we have to pass on as well. So let me just pass that on clicked, and we can emit loaded, and I can emit the loaded state as well. Loaded, and I can pass the post, and that will update. So let me hot restart now, and if I click, you can see now it's working fine. I can click here. Now this is the problem that we'll fix in a bit, but you can see that the like is working fine and the dislike counter is working fine as well. Now let's go to our like bottom sheet and figure out what's causing the problem. So we'll go to this like bottom sheet, and in the header section here, the problem is we need to wrap this with our block provider dot value. That's right, and here we'll pass the value. Let me pass a comma to format the code first, and controller I'll pass there. Perfect. So now let me try again, hot restart, and there we go. On clicking, everything is changing and rebuilding. Perfect. So our block is implemented as well, and you can see the commits and the changes whatever we have made in the GitHub as well. So our block is implemented, block with clean architecture implemented. Let's commit and push that and push the code. Now let's talk about the last state management solution that we can implement, that is Riverpod. So number one choice for large project for me is Bloc and Riverpod. Bloc is also great and Riverpod is also awesome. And last one, Riverpod, we'll be talking about next. Awesome. So from the clean architecture, not from the block, I'll make a new branch from clean architecture, and that will be Riverpod. Now let's just go to our pubspec.yaml and remove this get again and add our Flutter Riverpod. Let's hit pub get now. Perfect. So that will again add some errors that we'll fix. But first, let's wrap our my app with provider scope and import our Flutter Riverpod so that provider we can access inside our app. So that is done. Next, this post controller that we have made, that we have to update.
I can remove the get package and let's remove this as well. Let's make this list that we have as normal for now, and this will as well. Alright, and next let's change this. Okay, let's make it like that. Now the post and is loading that we have to change it with the help of state management of Riverpod. After that, here we'll extend that with our state notifier, and the state notifier is coming from our Riverpod package. Next, we have to add a super as well, and here assign the default value. So the state notifier will be of type post state, and let's make a class here post state above. This class will have final list of posts and final bull is loading. These two parameters we'll be having. Constructor we can make in that, and now let's just assign a default state here, so post state, and now the default post will be empty and is loading will be true as we have here as default. So I'll remove it from here as well. So now we can use this. So now we can change that update post, add posts and update like. These functions we have to update. So we'll update that, but first inside our post state class, we'll add a copy with method here. So post state, it will return copy with. We'll be having our list of posts and list of is loading, sorry, bull is loading. Let's make it as optional, and it will return post state is loading. All right, and that's it. So copy with now we can use. So here we'll update the state equals to state dot copy with, and post we can assign as new posts. So same thing we can do here as well. State equals to copy with, and then instead of updating all of the posts, we can do states dot posts. So here state dot posts and new posts. So whatever post we were having earlier plus new posts, it will add that, and all of that will be assigned to our state. Same we can do with the update like as well. So we'll add a copy with here as well. So we've added copy with as well inside our post.dart. So now we can go here, update like, we can copy that likes, we can update, And then now we can update our state. So state dot copy with posts, and here we can pass the updated posts. All right, everything else will remain exactly the same. Next, let's go to our components and pages and update the UI. So I'll remove get.dart because we don't need that anymore, and controller as well. So now inside the init state, let me just first wrap this with widget binding dot instance and add post frame callback, because that will be called after build method. We'll add that. Next, what we'll do is first let's go back, and this controller with that we have made, let me just rename that to our post notifier. That's right. And let's expose this as well. So here we'll make final post notifier is equals to state notifier provider, and here post notifier we can pass, and let's pass the type as well. So post notifier post state. That's right. So now we've exposed our notifier that we can use as well. So let's go back to our homepage.dart. Next, here what we can do is we'll change our stateful widget to consumer stateful widget. We'll import Flutter Riverpod, and here also we'll change it to consumer state. All right, so everything else will remain exactly the same. Now we can use ref.read, and I can pass my provider what we have made here. So post notifier dot notifier, and that will be our, let's say, notifier. I can make an object. With that we can access all of our methods. So notifier dot get posts, and here also I'll do add listener for our scroll controller, and notifier dot on scroll end. Just like that we can do, and our init state is updated as well. Next, let's go and change this obx, and here I'll just remove that and directly pass our list view dot builder to our expanded widget. Next, here we are having our controller. So notifier dot, so here we need the length of it, so I'll add that in post notifier as well. Int, so here we'll add int get post length and state dot post dot length we can pass. Now this post length getter we can use inside our and here as well we need post length. Next, this is loading also that we have. I am going to create that bull as well. So bull get is loading state dot is loading, so we can simply access that is loading outside. So notifier dot is loading, there we go, notifier, and I'll create a method dot get post, Let's go back and create a void get post. We'll get our index. This will return a post. Return state dot post dot element at index. So this will return our get post that we want. So all right. Next, let's go to our post section, remove get, and so let's change our stateful widget here as well. And now we can simply access the ref dot read, and I can pass post notifier. Our post notifier we can pass dot notifier. All right, so this will be our notifier, and we can use that to update our like notifier. Now we can use our get post and get that particular post. Next, let's go to the like bottom sheet, and first let's go to the header. Let's remove get.dart. Let's remove this. Let's change the stateful to consumer, and here as well consumer state. Let's import it. Now we can ref dot watch post notifier dot notifier. So basically watch is used for watching the changes, and read is used to fetch our notifier. So here I can change it to notifier, and notifier dot, so let me just take this complete logic, and notifier dot total likes. We'll make that. So let's just go to our notifier, and here let's create a int get total likes and add that, return that, and here we will be having our state post is empty, state post map. So we can return that, and we'll be having our total likes. Next, this obx is not needed, so let's just take this out. That's right. Okay, next we have our like bottom sheet. So here first let's remove get. Now let's convert this to consumer state, and consumer state here as well. Let's just import that. Now ref we can access watch post notifier dot notifier, and we'll be having our notifier. Now notifier dot post length, notifier dot get post at index, same notifier dot get post at index, and notifier dot update like get post at index, and we'll remove this obx from here. All right. So now errors are gone as well. Let me hot restart the app and then we'll try it out. And here you can see that I can click the like button. I can change the like and dislike value. I can go here, counter, and we can change the like, and the pagination should work as well. As you can see, it's paginating as well. So that is with the help of state management Riverpod. Some changes that I made is here inside the build method. I added ref.watch for the post notifier and then read we are doing for our list view builder. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, then please like the video, subscribe my channel, and if you have any doubts, then make sure to comment them below as well, and I'll definitely reply back. So with that being said, let's end the video and peace.